5 women have leveled allegation against NBC political analyst Mark Halperin. He's the latest man in power to come under fire for sexual misconduct. They say he sexually harassed them while he was at ABC News in the early 90s to 2000. Now, Halperin has now stepped down from NBC until the allegations are investigated. As you may recall, it all started when the Harvey Weinstein firestorm began. Several women have since come forward with stories of sexual harassment against Halperin.
Well, here to talk about sex addiction is Dr. Brian ALMAN.
Of course, Harvey Weinstein went through a physical therapy for his harassment. Does that really work?
Well, it works for him to try to convince a judge that he's doing something about it, but it would have no effect on him himself, like trying to stop a river with pebbles. It just isn't going to help. No, it takes a deep, intensive commitment, a strong desire to make a change, a confession, compassion. I mean, he's affected so many people for their entire lives. So it's a lot of work that he has to do inside. It's heavy lifting.
What is the cause of sexual addiction or sexual harassment? I mean, what is it, a personality disorder? Is it something that is learned? Is it what?
It always goes back to their childhoods. It always goes back to how they grew up, how they were treated by either in their family or other people that they grew up with. But there's always a very long story of how somebody becomes like that. You don't just start to be like that one day.
Right.
That's a progression of years and decades, as all these women have been saying. This has been going on for decades with him. But it goes back even further than that. So he's a victim, and he makes other people a victim, and he's looking for power and control, even to humiliate people. That's just not even close to normal.
No.
He has a long history.
What's the success rate for people who do go through some sort of therapy for sexual addiction?
It would take a very intensive kind of therapy, not a once a week and not a 3-week of rehab. It's a long term. It's going to take years or decades for this guy to come out of his inner chaos. I can't even imagine how distorted he is inside. Yeah.
You know, for people who are convicted of a sex crime, child molestation, or some of the other heinous crimes, people in law say that the recidivism rate is very high and that these addictions and illnesses are incurable.
Well, I'm not sure about incurable. They're very difficult to cure. I was actually fortunate enough to be part of a study at Kaiser Permanente that had 1.3 million people in it. And we were able to predict how people become like this and the effects of the victims, which is really the tragedy, because it stays with these women and boys and men for usually the rest of their lives. That's where a lot of treatment needs to go, is to the victims of this guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, I mean, at this point, I mean, you're talking, even for the victims, long-term treatment in many cases, right? Right.
Well, that's why so many women are coming out now and saying something, because maybe they thought it would go away. Maybe they thought, oh, maybe this was just, but it stays with us because it really bothers us inside. When you get abused, when you've been treated the way he's treated people, you don't just blow that off. You don't go get a little therapy. It actually takes a lot of work because it harms us, kind of mind, body, heart, and soul.
So for the abuser, is it cognitive therapy? What exactly is the treatment?
Yeah, well, it's not just a cognitive therapy. It's deep emotional work. This guy is really disturbed, and he has emotional issues that go way back, as I said. So he's going to need a lot of emotional help. He'll need cognitive, but more importantly, he'll need emotional therapy. He might even need long-term treatment in-house.
You don't hear about women having this issue as much, but it does affect women as well.
As far as the perpetrators, you mean?
Yeah, sex addiction or
it's
abuse.
Mostly men. So the majority is men, but there are women that have this as well, and it's equally as difficult. But the majority are men. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Brian ALMAN, thank you for being with us.
Very well.
Yeah,
Appreciate to see you.
Yeah.